Morning YouTube. So in this video today I'm going to tell you what has been my worst tool purchase of the year, and it's the one that I regret actually. And I'll be honest with you, it's in the corner of the container and it's like almost sneering at me, and you might see why at the end or you might not. Ultimately though, we all make mistakes with kit, we all buy ornaments so to speak. And you know, when does an ornament become an ornament? So this tool, although I've not used it much, I could end up using it, but the plan for it eventually is to sell it and, you know, get it on to somebody else. And I'll do a little bit of my thoughts and feelings on it later on, a bit towards the end of the thing, because I'm not shitting on the machine at all. It's just not a right fit for my business. But I'll explain all that as I go along. So there's a couple of reasons why it's not turned out to be the way it is. The first one is what I would say is on me. Now, I didn't rush into it, but you'll see the flaws in my plan as I explain my thinking for it. So I'll explain that. But first off, I didn't do as much research. Well, I did and I didn't. But in hindsight, there's one main thing I should have done, which I didn't. I should have rented one. I should have rented it and seen what it was like. Now, people are probably saying, well, you should have had a demo. Well, I'll explain that as I get along. So I should have rented that machine, and that would have told me whether it was it's a machine for me or if it isn't. But I didn't. I thought, I looked at what was out there, I'd seen what others had said, I'd listened to the company, and that had made my mind up. And looking back, I should have rented it and used my sort of understanding, not somebody else's. Also, I thought I had more work lined up for it, and you'll see this thing. So let's start at the beginning of the story. It all started where I got a car park job, come in, a commercial one, and she wanted the car park clearing and keeping on top of once a month. Not a problem. And then while I was speaking to her, she says, I might have a bit more. So she called me back and says, I've got 2 more sites, again, weedy car parks, could you come and price it up for us? I said, yeah. I said, it's not a problem. So I went down, I was looking, and it was your usual overgrown. There was weeds coming up through the concrete, weeds coming up everywhere, you know, all that sort of stuff. It was quite a sensitive area, so some people might be saying, well, why don't you trim the weeds off? Well, it's a car park and there's windows all around it, so you know, that's not ideal for that. And also there was weeds on the verge, which is the public side, and it's a road, so again I didn't want to trim it. And there was a lot there that, you know, too much to be sort of trying to hoe it out. I couldn't spray it because it was on a pedestrian footway, or I could, but I didn't want to, because I don't want to be seen, you know, especially with how everybody is anti-weed killer now. I didn't want to be seen spraying weed killer on a public facing property. So all that, there's loads of like little bloody reasons anyway. So, and then I got another commercial job, which again I thought, it'll come in really handy for it. Now, it got me thinking. I was thinking, you know, and I've always said if I can get a machine that makes my life easier, I would. And then I saw a review on, I think it was Hayes Machinery. They did a little quick sort of review on these weed rippers, and I thought, you know what, that actually looks the cock for dolly. And originally I was going to buy the small one because I thought, you know, I'm only doing the edges, it's all I need. And so I left it at that, and I was thinking about that, and then I was, you know, mulling it over, and I thought, right, like anything that's big, you need to have a plan. So my plan was I had a choice, a moss brush or a weed brush. But at the times, a weed ripper, or a moss brush. Now at the times, it would have been too much for the moss brush. The moss brush wouldn't touch these weeds. So I thought, right, I'll get a weed brush. And then I saw the videos of the Hayes machine. I'm not blaming them at all, fucking hell, no way. So I saw the video and thought, well, they've used it on it. And I'm thinking, well, in theory, I can't. So I spoke to the company. I won't tell you who the company was, as you'll get along in a way. I had a bad experience with them, and I don't want to badmouth, even though I thought they were horrible people and they were very rude. You might see my side, you might not, but I'm not here to name and shame and do a trial by social media, nothing of the sorts. This is just my story on what's led me up to thinking this is my worst tool purchase. So bought this tool, so I thought, right, so I looked at a company, I'm not saying who it was, and I thought, right, I'll speak to him. And I spoke to him. Oh no, you don't want a small one, it's not that, between you and me, it's not actually that good, especially if you're doing it on a commercial basis. You need the bigger one. And I'm not saying they talked me into it at all, they're not, but you know what salespeople are like, they want the options and the bells and whistles, and that's what they sold me. So I'm diverting here. So the first reason was myself, but the second one that's put me off it is a bad experience. This is what I'm getting to. So at this point in time, I thought I needed one, and I thought, oh, I'll have a plan for it. So they said about, so I rung this company up and had a chat, and then I said to them, well, Luke, can I come down? And there was a bit of a time crunch, and looking back, this was me rushing into it. I'd give myself this date when I had the work booked in for a few weeks, and I was giving myself this date, and I sort of snowballed myself into it. So I'm not blaming this. And he said, oh, well, we've only got one machine left that you're interested in, and they are selling quick. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I bought it, and I says to him, I says, Luke, I says, I've seen on the internet that it needs to be set up in a specific way, and you know, I says, like, look, I'm not saying I need training on it, but it's a big piece of kit. So is there any way I can have a demo before I get? Yeah. Come down and we'll give you a full demo. You'll be able to try it on all the different stuff and see how it works, and you know, you'll be able to make your own mind up, and then, you know, it's theirs if you want it, all that. I says, right. I says, and again, I was busy, and I've always been busy, so I was busy, and the only free time I had was on a Friday. I says to him, Luke, are you okay if I come down on a Friday? Well, we do finish early on a Friday. What time? 4 o'clock. I said, right. I says, if I come down for 2:30, would that work for you? Yeah. She says, that'll be fine. You'll probably take you about an hour to do the training. I says, brilliant. I says, while I'm now, is there any chance I can have a look at the other kit? Yeah. We've got a full showroom, all that sort of stuff. I said, right, brilliant. 2:30. This was all over email. Well, phone call and email. Because I emailed to book, you know, just to confirm I would be coming. So I toddled off down there, and it was about a 2.5 hour trip, because it could have been delivered, but I didn't want it delivered. I wanted to go and have this training, stuff like that. So I got there, and I got there for about 2:30, and I could see the machine outside on the show. It was just like left in front of the shutters. So I went into the office, said, I'm here to pick a machine up. Yeah, it's outside for you, just, you know, do you want to chuck it? And I says, no. I says, but I rung up about a demo, and you know, have a look around and have a look at your other kit. Oh, well, we close early on a Friday. I says, well, I know that. I says, but we'd booked in for this, and I did say to you, is 2:30 fine? And you guys had said, yeah. Oh, and there was, you know what it's like when it's somebody else's book. It was scratching their head, and well, okay, yeah. So I'll try and speed through this, because I don't want to make this video me moaning about them. I want to do this, I want to talk about it fairly, as in actually not slag off the products, you know, but it's all part of the story. So in the end, they got somebody from the warehouse to give me the demo. I says, right, well, we've all right to, he says, oh, well, we've got nowhere here you can put it down on. I'm like, okay. I says, well, do you know, because it says on the instructions about setting the heads. Oh, I don't know how to do that. But he said, I can show you what, you know, the machine. He showed me how to start it, you know, how to start a Honda engine. He showed me how to adjust a wheel, like, here's the handlebar, here's the pull toggle, all that. So it wasn't what I was expecting. I said about speaking, can I speak to one of the sales team? No, they're all on the phone and they'll be shooting off early. I said, well, can I have a look around the showroom? Well, we've just come back from a fair, all that. So, you know, we did that. I wasn't annoyed, but you know, when you just feel like a dickhead. I felt like a dickhead, basically. So I'd said to him, I says, that everything? She says, yeah. I says, I thought it come with a full set of replacement tips. No, they're on the machine for you. I says, so it doesn't come with any, but you can send it with one set. I'm sure it says it comes with a full set and another set. No. So I ended up buying another set while I was there, and I ended up buying a replacement bout because, you know, I'm figuring I'm going to get loads of use out of this. So I bought a spare bout, and she says, here's the tips, is this the bout you need? I said, I've no idea. I says, I don't know what bouts the machine takes. Oh, I think it is, so I presume it is. And I said, look, she says, I said, have you got the invoice or the receipt? Sorry, the receipt. She says, oh, it's got to go through processing, we'll email it out to you in a week. I says, but I've paid for it. I says, can you not print me one off? No. I says, okay. But in the end, somebody come over and printed one off for me. I don't know why, but anyway, so she did that. So grabbed the machine, and then the sort of the final kick in the bollocks was one of the ladies come over and says, oh, if you'd have come to us last weekend, you would have got 10% off or something, which basically was 200 quid. I was like, well, could you not apply that? No, oh no, it's only at the show. So, you know what I mean? It pissed me off, if I'm being honest with you. It was like, I already felt an idiot, and then it was a final thing of, oh yeah, you could have had 200 quid off. But anyway, so loaded it up, got it back, I tested it out, and pretty much there and then I thought, you know when you use so, you know when you know something's bad, or it's, the thing is, the machine is very solidly built, it's very heavy, but it's very solidly built, it's well designed. I think it's overcomplicated for what it needs to be personally, but for anybody else who does a lot of it, it'd be perfect. For myself, it was very mauling, it was very messy, very dusty, it spins very quick, and it launches. If it hits a brick, it'll fucking fling it. It's like the equivalent of like hitting a pebble with a strimmer. Again, I spoke to him and I asked him this, and this is what I said, what's it like on surfaces? Oh yeah, it's brilliant, it'll get weeds off. It gets the weeds off, but it scratches the fuck out of it. So I tried it on my brother's patio, getting the weeds up, and it got the weeds up, but it scratched the patio. And don't worry, my brother's patio, it's not that sort of patio, you know, it's like council slabs, like big slabs, but it scratched fuck out of them, it scratched fuck out of the block. It wasn't too bad on block, but it did scratch it. I'm thinking, fucking hell, I've bought this, you know, and I can't, automatically I'm thinking, right, that's the residential side gone, because you can't use it on a residential site. It's just too destructive. It just leaves so much, you know. If I go and do Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins' bloody patio, you know, or the side of the you know, tarmac, there'd be an uproar. So suffices to say, I did end up getting use. Now, I had a phone call, I ended up going back and looking at the listing, and I realised that it did say on the listing that it comes with one full set and one full set on the machine. So I rung them up the next day and I said this to him. I said, look, I says, you've missed it off. I said, I've paid for another set. She said, okay, no problem, we'll send them to you in the post. They did. She says, well, is there anything else I can help you with? So I didn't complain, but I just said, Luke, I said, I come up to you yesterday. I said, I just felt like, I said, I'd come up for a training session. No one was there to provide it. Well, we did tell you. I says, you did, but you did also say it wouldn't be a problem. If it was going to be a problem, you should have told me not to come, because, you know, I'd spent 2.5 hours driving there, 2.5 hours back, to then basically, you know, get nothing when I could have just, I worked it out off a YouTube video anyway, to end up having stuff missing off which you've had to post. And I told her I wasn't kicking off, because, you know, and she says, well, okay, I'll pass it on. So anyway, so I used the machine on one site, and I think I've done videos on it, but I'll be honest with you, I think I've took the stickers off where I got it from, because I don't want to advertise them, knowing as well that I'm going to have to tell you how it was. I don't want them getting it. As much as I think they do deserve it, I don't want to be the one who's lighting the match. So I used it, and you can see in the videos it does do a good job, but it's fair, especially if it's dusty. It's fucking dusty. It's, you know, it's just a smoke screen making machine basically. It's very messy. It's just as violent as a strimmer, if you want my opinion. If you're thinking about, like with me, it's got a big guard around it. It's a mole to get in your van, by the way, but it's got this great big guard, but but it still flirts them out, it still pings them off. You're all better off trimming, I'm sorry. But the machine is nice, you know, under engine, all that. It's, you know, it's a lovely machine. It would be right for somebody else, it's just not right for me. So again, a couple of things that did it in for me. I had a phone call off the bloke who's a managing director, and he rolled me up and he says that I'm at a trade fair, I can't speak to you for long, what's your problem? So I told him briefly what had happened. He says, well, he says, you've got two choices. You can bring it back to us, we'll charge you a restocking fee and we'll give you the money back, or you can keep the machine. I says, well, I'm not kicking off to complain. I says, the machine itself is fantastic. I said, it's, you know, and I'm just getting used to it at this point. I still had hope for it. I said, it's just, and I told him all what had been said, and he just said, I don't believe you. I said, I think you're lying. I said, I believe my staff over you. I says, well, I've got it on email. Well, I don't care. I said, I believe my staff over you. He says, you said you're happy with the machine, I can't understand why you're ringing me. I says, well, you rung me. And in the end, and he didn't get heated, but, you know, I'm not fucking being mugged off. So I reiterated what was said. You know, I said, look, I'm not asking for anything off you. I said, I'm just telling you. I said, you rung up to ask what the problem is. I've told you. You've told me that there's no problem and the machine's fine. So, you know, it's me who's got the problem. So it just went like that. And then, you know, that was left at that. So, again, a kick in the bollocks. I got a fucking fine because where, I'm not going to tell you where they are, but where they are, there's a clean air zone. You'll work it out because there's only 7 clean air zones in the country, I think. And I had to go through one and I didn't realise. I'm not saying that's their fault. Don't jump on me and think I'm blaming them because I got a fine because I didn't see the signs. I'm not at all. But it's another kick in the bollocks, you know what I mean? You had all that, then you had this, and then when you're self-employed, you place so much emphasis on yourself. It's not, you know, it's not like an employee who's told me buy it or somebody else who said buy this machine. It's me, it's all on me. So it's me who's got the biggest kick in the bollocks here because I've bought it, I've spent, you know, a couple of grand on this machine, and it's me who's got it wrong, and then I get the fine and I've got to pay the fine. So I used it on the other jobs, and I'll a little bit of a thing with this weed ripper. It's fantastic. It does what it does. It's very aggressive. So I think you'll see pictures, or if you look back on my videos where I talked about it, you'll see where it will clean. It almost cleans the tarmac, but then you're left with a clean area and a dirty area. But it's all or nothing. It's one where you can't tilt the machine. You've got to use the full pad, and I did try and tilt it, but it's too heavy, it's too mauling. It starts first pull, it's powerful, but if you're thinking of getting a weed ripper, my advice, look at another machine. It's up to you, I'm not going to tell you what I think's better, but look at another machine. As I said, it's a well-built machine from a UK company. You know, you've probably got a backing of them. I wouldn't like to think you have. But it's too mauling for me. It's too damaging. So that's another thing. So I've had 2 more encounters with him, and they've not been good. One of them was I rung him up and I says, look, it's very damaging on the surfaces. He says, yes, it is very aggressive. I says, well, I says, okay. I says, is there anything I can do to mitigate it? He says, well, he says, you could try wetting the area. Well, you know, that's not always the best option. Like, you don't know you need to wet an area before you buy it anyway. So I says, well, is there another brush head you can recommend? Like with the moss brushes, you can swap the heads. He says, well, we've got a tine which is a plastic tine, and we use it for astroturf. I says, okay. I says, would that be suitable for moss, getting moss off patios, and like, would it be suitable for tarmac and block? He says, well, no, I don't think so. Well, you could try it. And I think these are like 100 or 150 quid for a set. I said, I can't take that gamble. I said, I'm not going to buy it. I said, I sort of need, you know. He says, well, we've just never tried it. So, you know, I was fake, you know, as I say, I'm not shitting on him. I'm not, it sounds like I'm trying to make things up for you to sort of, but that was another encounter. And I saw him at Soltex, actually. I'll be honest with you, part of me, and I said this to Reese when I was there, part of me, I wanted to go and have it out with him. Like, really have it out with him, because I just felt so wound up by how he spoke to me, but I'm not big box at all, you know. I'm not sort of that, but I stand up for myself. I've always been taught stand up for yourself, not in a violent way, but just tell him. I was tempted, and I went up to a stand actually, and he come over, one of them, I don't know who it was, and he says, do you work for, are you a purchaser or do you work for a council? I says, no, I work for myself. He said, okay, all the information's online if you need it. And he just walked off and carried on talking to his mate. And it really, it's like, as I say, it sounds like, you know, I'm adding fat to the fire, but I'm not. It's like a very sort of, and it almost could be tit for tat. It isn't meant as tit for tat. I'm just giving you the full sort of facts here, you know, the warts and all. I'm not shitting on the machine. The machine itself is excellent. It's just not the right machine for me. My biggest thing, and I said this at the start, I should have rented one. Got a feel of it. Oh God, it is a bit more, and it is a bit too powerful. It's a ball ache to get in and out of the van because it's got the tines on the front. They snag, and it's quite wide, so it's not really the suitablest thing for me. I should have done my own work, but I should have rented one, but I didn't. I went with me, you know, probably my brain and all shiny tool. So it is my fault, and I'm not saying it's this company, it's just this is the thing you have. I'm trying to do it as fair as I can. As I say, I'm not going to tell you where. I think I have done videos, but I'm pretty sure I've took the stickers off from who sold it to me, basically, because I don't want to, because I knew I was going to do a video like this. It's not to call them out, it's not to name and shame them, this is my worst tool purchase. And why is it? Well, I blame myself because I should have got a demo. Well, I should have had, as I said, when I didn't get the demo, I still bought it, I still walked away with it, you know. It is my fault, but contributing factors, as well as it not been for me, so anyway, what are we going to do? But like anything, we have any problems, what we're going to do to solve it? Well, I think for me it's not the right machine for me. I think for other people it is. It's a brilliant machine. It's Honda. It's done very little work. It's probably done a couple of hours of work. I've not had any other sites to use it on. I'll be honest with you, I would never use it on a residential sort of setting. It's just too damaging. So I did mention I want to get a moss brush and a weed brush while I was at Soltex. I looked at one machine which I think will solve it. So it's the Nemos Mosquito. Why do I think that's better? One, I'm going to get a proper demo off it so I can make my mind up. Yes, it'll work. No, it won't. Two, it's a dedicated, this isn't a video plugging them, this is just what I'm doing to solve it, because I still have a need for it, especially the moss brush. I've got so many customers with mossy patios that don't want it power washing, or mossy driveways where the driveway's, you know, a little bit decrepit, so they don't want it power washing, they just want it tidying up. And you know, this machine will be basically what I think it will. I've got another choice, you know, there's two choices. I can keep the weed ripper and buy a moss brush from the same company, which will be running me another couple of grand. Then I've got two machines occupying the workshop, the container, taking up, you know, twice as much room. Or what I can do is sell it and get one machine which is a lot smaller and can do a lot more, with the fact that you can swap the heads, and that's what I'll be doing. So I'll list the weed ripper at some point. This is the thing that burns. Yes, you're going to take a hit on it financially, you're going to lose money. It is what it is. The thing is, if I keep it and it's an ornament, it might get some more use, but that's the thing. So yeah, a bit of a gloomy one, guys. I don't like doing stuff like this, but I wanted to give you the whole story, not just, oh, I should have had a demo, I should have had a rental. You know, I told you why I didn't get a demo, I told you why I didn't get it. My fault, I rushed into it. So that has been my worst tool purchase of probably of all the years I've been in business. There's been a couple that have come close, but I've always, you know, they're cheaper and there's never been any problems with them. But that's the worst. Have a good day, guys. Keep on gardening.